hours later, our panel of audiophiles settled in and the Abbey Road listening test began. When the last note sounded, we opened up a round table and sat back to watch the fireworks.
It's nice to see, you know, the Beatles finally in a digital format that can work. It does make me wish there was another album that came after all this. But, you know, the most obvious thing is that in the vinyl you get sort of this, it's all together, and it creates warmth. In the digital, they've chopped it up and put it back together rather beautifully. And depending upon what part of the music you're hearing, it sounds better or worse, right? When you're hearing single instruments, you're like, damn, that is it. When they're all singing together, the muddiness works. So, you know, it's interesting what's happened. One thing did strike me. The vinyl sounds so familiar.
Again, the vinyl very much feels like home because it's a sound I grew up with. And there are certainly some things about it that absolutely are very familiar and warm, and pieces of it absolutely sound better. With the digital, as Leif said, you know, you get much more clarity across the board. It sounds very fresh and very much like you're in the room with them. At the same time, there's portions of it that jump out and make you wish the acoustics of that room you're in with them were a little better. But overall, an incredible comparison between the vinyl and the digital.
The vinyl did appear to be a little bit warmer. It seemed like the CD, when they enhanced it, they might have put a dynamic range expander on it just a little bit, which was kind of fun. It made it a little punchier. But for listening fatigue, I think when we were listening to the record, everyone in the room kind of said, let it roll. Let's listen to the next song. I heard it. Everybody said the same thing. So, you know, just sitting around listening to records, people don't do that much anymore because of the incredibly high listening fatigue that comes with a lot of stereos and with a lot of CDs. So I like the vinyl.
I grew up with Abbey Road on the turntable, an old Gerard, a KLH, I don't know what that model is, Model 20 maybe. And that is like a quintessential experience of my childhood. So, of course, the vinyl makes more sense. But playback here, it's not quite a fair fight. I mean, $500 CD player versus, you know, quite a more accomplished vinyl rig. But just in terms of the actual musicality of them, the turntable just, it sings, you know. There's harmonics, there's musicality, there's joy. You get joy from that. The CD, as ever, analytical and, you know, great details, wonderful resolution, but, you know, it's not vinyl, is it?
I can say with 100% certainty that record smoked that CD. I love the CDs, and I find that the new remasters are tremendous. I've spent the last few months listening to them constantly. The mono versions especially. The stereos are great too. You know, the new CDs are certainly more dynamic. They've got better frequency extension in the deep bass and in the high frequencies. When you're listening to take the bass, for instance, Paul's bass lines, I think the vinyl is a much more accurate representation about what it sounds like. And there's a continuousness of music that you get in an analog signal that you can't get when you turn music into zeros and ones and turn it back into music. As far as digital technology has come in the 25 years it's existed, it's not gonna, there's no way it can touch a good piece of vinyl. And
you know, they were both enjoyable. I loved both of them in different ways, and was able to equally get into them on different levels. They're clearly entirely different sounding, and different versions that someone who was mastering them thought, you know, this is the way the Beatles wanted to sound, or this is what I think it should sound like. And maybe the Beatles were involved in some of that at one point, and they aren't now. But either way, they were both, it was good times, you know, so.
You're all wrong. I don't agree really with what Leland said. There is no question that on the remaster that the engineers have done wonderful things. They've brought up all the things that were missing on the original recordings. They've brought up the bass, they've brought the voices much more forward. But even though I think that's a lousy bloody recording, that special super, was it original master recording, I don't think it's a good recording. I have to admit there's something about it that turns me on, that makes it more involving and more enjoyable. And I have all the remasters and I've listened to them. I even put them on my iPhone. And they're very good. But there is, I don't know, because maybe there's just something about vinyl that just draws you in.
In the end, it was clear our panel unanimously favored the vinyl over the CD. We weren't so sure, but then again, we're not audiophiles. Still, how could we not appreciate the sentiment and the occasion that produced it? It's such a rare thing these days to sit around and listen to records with other like-minded souls, but at CES for one night, that's exactly what happened. And for that reason alone, the Abbey Road listening test was a resounding success.